We have to start looking at participating in solutions and not problems. And solutions mean exploring various options that are out there in the marketplace. Our guest for Tech Tuesday today is a very talented executive from Realtair that actually comes from the real estate world, has owned a number of real estate offices on the South Coast, and now between him and his team do over 2,500 auctions a year. But he's head of sales and strategic partnerships for Realtair, which, you know, I have a relationship with because of their ability to have technology to complement you, not necessarily substitute you, but complement you. And today, the specific topic, Ben, is hybrid auctions. And I really want to dig deep and explore on whether hybrid auctions can actually help agents in a changing market. So firstly, Ben, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tom. I just want to know if I've got the real Tom Panos here. You seem to be everywhere at the moment. So I just want to make sure that this is T1, not T2, but mate, everywhere. You were Eric, I saw you in Launceston the other day, you're in Melbourne, everywhere. So I just want to make sure that this is the real Tom Panos.
This is the real Tom Panos. I want to give you one guess at where do you think I am today?
Oh, actually, well, based on the jacket, you're probably in a city, Melbourne or Brisbane.
Ben. Byron Bay.
Oh, here you go. Have you got your shoes on?
Byron Bay, even though the jacket can go off because it's actually
kicking around with Hemsy, hey? Kicking around with Hemsworth today, giving him a bit of advice on the market.
Yeah, but are you in the city or you're on the South Coast?
In the city. So life of a salesperson. At the moment, I'm currently doing this from my hotel room in Sydney. So I've had a full day of appointments today and sort of staying up here tonight because we've got a few things on. But you know, it's like life on the road. You're that person. But mate, thank you very much for having me here today. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. 26 years in real estate for me and over 13,000 auctions. I very rarely get nervous. However, when the king's got you online, you've probably got to get a few butterflies going. So thanks for having me.
Well, listen, I mean, one of the things Ben, and don't be nervous because you know your stuff. If you've done as much of his work as that, and now you've had an exposure of about a year or two with technology and the digital auctions, you work right through COVID using digital auctions. I've sat through 2 training sessions with you where you went through how to use what was called Auctioneer, which has now changed its brand name to Sell. Yeah. So Ben, you've had a lot of exposure. I just want to ask you, like at the moment, you're auctioning a lot of property. What method of auction are you using yourself? Like, are you using hybrid auctions? I'd like you to tell me what do you describe as hybrid auctions? Yeah,
look, I'll touch on that in a moment, but that is 95% of what I'm currently seeing in the marketplace at the moment. So go back about 18 months ago when the pandemic hit and it was announced. I remember calling an auction for my biggest client out in the Hills District, and they said, "Are you going to get home in time?" I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "There's a lockdown from 6 o'clock tonight. That's it. You can't go anywhere, can't do anything." And I said, "Oh, righto," and looked in it, got home. Got home that night, and as a subsequent of that, I lost 160 auction bookings overnight. People, we don't know what to do. We're not ready. We're not set up. We don't know how to do it, right? So there was always this inkling, or, you know, Damien Cooley built a fantastic platform out there at the time called Auctioneer. And unbeknownst to us when we purchased it, and Damien's still obviously involved, that this would come into its own. So we were able to do these online auctions. So I went from losing 160 auction bookings overnight to, in a 2-month period at the end of last year, November, December, I did 500 auctions from my study at home in my Ugg boots, tracksuit pants on below, like a news reporter, you know, business up the top, party below. And I called auction after auction after auction. My wife got involved, and, you know, she was the one on the mute button, and we were able to transact real estate. And I guess that's what the amazing thing about the real estate industry was yes, we panicked at first, but we sat back and went, this has still got to transact, and how do we do it? And it just so happens that this platform was available. Now, what's happened since then, Tom, is we've got this, what's crept into our auction world now is because of that. We're very much a QR code world, log on to register. It opened up a digital world, not just for real estate, but for everything that we did. The moment you checked into a club, pub, you're doing it QR codes to get in there, this whole digital world became available to us. So what that also did for us was enabled bidders to be anywhere, anytime in the world, right? So they could, and as simple as this, I did an auction last Friday night in Wingham. I don't even know where Wingham is, Tom. Like it's up Port Macquarie way, that way, inner west of Port Macquarie, 6,000 acres. I was in my property, like my home in Wollongong. The agent was in Wingham, the vendor was in Sydney, and there were 6 registered parties all over Australia bidding on this property, right? So we were able to sell the property hundreds of thousands of dollars above reserve. We exchanged the contract instantly using our platform as well, straight onto digital. We collected deposit. All of this is within 15 minutes of selling the property. Now, there's no way on God's earth could we have even done that, not in pandemic.
Yeah.
So then what's happened now, Tom, is that this notion of this digital age is still there. We've still got people still extremely paranoid about catching COVID if they haven't got it. They're time poor. They've got stuff going on everywhere. I've got now auctions, which we're calling the hybrid, is where I've got buyers sitting in front of me, your traditional auction, we're back to a bit of normality. They're turning up on Saturday at the open for inspections and the auctions to bid. They're turning up in rooms to do it. However, I've still got that legacy, which is a fantastic legacy to have, of buyers sitting at home, sitting at their kids' football game, bidding at the auction through the platform that we provided. And we're able to facilitate both the online and the in-room all under the one platform. Even funnily enough, Tom, both Pete and I, Pete Matthews, our CEO, we did an auction the same Saturday, probably the same buyer, who knows, but I was calling an auction in the inner west, on-site auction, buyers in front of me, and I had a buyer online that happened to be sitting in the car across the road bidding on their phone for the same auction that they're participating in because they were just worried about catching COVID. So we were able to involve everyone. I guess the lesson here, though, too, in it is if you're not afraid of technology, our job at the moment, the market's diminishing, buyers are getting less and less. We need to open up every avenue for our buyers to be able to participate in auctions. And by having a hybrid, we're not only compliant, collecting all the relevant details, live streaming it, capturing all the details, capturing the auction. We're sending it to lounge rooms all over the world. If you've got a smart device, you can participate in the auction and leave no stone unturned or no one out of the auction. So essentially that's where we're at, mate. And it's 95% of what I call at the moment is a hybrid auction.
Okay, so let's be clear. When COVID was on, you were using purely digital auction.
Yep.
Now it's gone to exactly the same platform, but you allow the option of people being there face to face. And I would suggest that you'd get, well, I could be wrong, you'd get more registered bidders bidding that are face to face than online.
Look, it's right? A bit of a mix, Tom. So I do a lot down the South Coast. For me, like this is my story, right? But I do a lot down the South Coast. Now, down the South Coast is traditionally, they can list and sell real estate down on the South Coast and never meet the vendor. Right. So they can go and look at my beachfront property down at Huskisson, let me know what it's worth, send me the proposal, and they never meet the vendor. It's all done via correspondence. It's almost the same sort of thing for a buyer. A lot of the time, the buyers do come and initially inspect it once to make sure it's the right field, but they'll do everything else via correspondence. So this has opened up the ability for that buyer that might be sitting on the fence price-wise, look, we might not get it, we might not get it. I'm not going to spend 2 hours coming from Sydney to go down to Nowra on the South Coast to sit in an auction for an hour to potentially miss out and drive home for 2 hours. Whereas this is now going, shit, it's pretty easy, Tom. All I got to do is put my license in and register, be approved, and I can participate, watch the auction, see what's happening and participate in that sense. So for me, back to your question, it's a bit of 50-50. If I'm doing my in-room venue, I'll sell, if I do a lot down for, Ray White, Shell Harbour City, 10 auctions up and right, I'll sell half online and half in the room. Obviously, the closer to the city you get, it's easier for them to turn up, subject to them wanting to catch COVID or safety and all those sorts of things, but a bit 50-50 for me, mate.
Man, just talking to you now, Ben, this COVID and this fear about it is still there. On Saturday, I was doing an auction in the inner west, and it was in a unit building. And when the auction finished, I noticed a lady very heavily covered with a mask. She looked really covered, like it was just very obvious. And then as the auction finished, she raced and got to the elevator, pressed the elevator button. And then there was all, you know what it's like at an elevator, everyone wants to get in. And she just said this, her and her husband, both masked, she goes, could I please ask you a favor? Would it be okay that we just go down on our own? We're very, very worried. And everyone just sort of said, oh, yeah, because I think sometimes people think, oh, it's all moved on. But purchasing decisions may be impacted still by people worrying about being in a public scenario.
Totally agree, mate. Totally agree. And we've got to, like, as agents, we've got to, you know, this old notion of leaving no stone unturned. We have to make every scenario for a purchaser to be able to buy real estate as easy as possible. If that means they can bid from their lounge room, sitting at home, and they feel comfortable doing that, so be it. Let's adopt it. Let's give them the technology and the ability to be able to do it. Look, don't get me wrong, throughout that November, December, where it was red hot, you know, I had one auction, I had 63 registered bidders online. I actually would have loved to have hung out with someone. I was sick of hanging out at home. However, I honestly think that people sitting at home with the intent to sort of have their trusted advisors around them that might not have been able to attend the auction with them, they're making better informed decisions, more relaxed, and being able to participate in an auction where before they might have sat on the fence. So as you know, auction numbers, participation rates, as in registered bidders, have gone from, mate, I was out in the Hills District, 15 to 30 registered people per property, down to I've had some out there with none. So if someone said to me, sorry, I want to register, I'm sitting on the fence, here's back to scripts and dialogues, you know, if I could provide you a platform that you could still participate, would you be interested? Yes. You don't have to attend. Yes. I'll take whatever I can get, mate, at the moment. So that's sort of where we sit.
I can see the benefits. I can see the benefits to a buyer. I can see the benefits to a buyer. Why would they drive 2 hours to you know, Nowra or Wollongong or Kiama? Or why do they want to expose themselves to big crowds? Why worry about parking at a venue? Why worry about losing your
the kids' football game, mate? You know, whatever.
I get all of that. I want to ask you. I want to ask you the benefits to an agent using the hybrid auction. You're telling me that you're doing 90% of them as hybrids. What are you seeing some of the benefits for the agents?
Yeah, okay. Well, first and foremost, the system was built around compliance. Forget about the ability for a buyer to be anywhere, anytime in the world. It was the ability to get away from paper, as in registering our clients correctly. We've got the ability on our platform to take a photo of the license. It pre-populates the registration, so it saves time and effort. And you can do multiple registrations at any point in time. So compliance was first and foremost. So the answer to that, the thing that really annoyed me, Tom, and it just digressed slightly, was when pandemic came out, which saved every agent's ass in the day, which, as I said, you know, I lost 160 auctions overnight. We were still able to transact. It worked. So we dropped it. There's agencies out there that are dropped. Let's just go back to the usual pen and paper, write it down, do I take it back to the office, scan it in, file it, all that sort of stuff. This is a digital record forever and a day, sits on your system there. We've got a digital recording of it. During the pandemic, I got challenged 3 times, not me personally, the agency got challenged 3 times by the Office of Fair Trading. I was able to pull up all the registered parties digitally for them, who placed what bid when, who the followers were, and I gave them a live stream copy of the auction, no case to answer for, because, you know, the prices were going 200, 300, 500, $1 million over reserve. So the underbidders were getting a little bit annoyed, but we were able to provide the case for it. So back to it, what's in it for the agent? Fully compliant, ease of access, registration's done. If a person registers for one property in the system, they've got to create an account. Once they've done that, their registrations for future auctions or future, we don't just do auctions, obviously we do offers as well, is so easy for them. So, and it's a transparent it's a transparent way of interacting with the buyers. So we've now got buyers saying, where's your QR code? Or can I do this online? So they're actually asking us now, not us shoving it down the client's throat, because they feel it's more professional way of transacting. So to answer your question in short form, it's just easier for the agents to get the buyer into the game.
Okay. Now, the one I'm fascinated, Ben, about the non-registered people, and I'm seeing more and more, I call them auction spectators, curious people. Some of them are just weekend junkies and just will go to anything. But what I found out is the research is very clear. Before a vendor puts a property on the market, they'll normally carry out 2 sets of behavior. And that behavior is normally done 3 months before they list the property. A vendor will attend open for inspections, and a vendor will try and view the auction activity in a marketplace.
Right. Yeah.
Now, your platform there, Ben, captures data, not from just the registered, but also the unregistered interested people. Is that right?
Correct. So again, back to that point about not being able to travel. It's a rainy day, couldn't be bothered going down to the auction of the road. Oh, geez, I've left it too late. I'm in my Ugg boots, don't want to do it. People can simply log onto the system now, not like Facebook streaming. Like people just say Facebook stream, but there's no login details for that. For you to physically watch one of our auctions, you've got to simply do a simple registration. What I mean by simple registration is name, phone number, email address. That's it, right? We're not asking for licenses, or they're going to create a simple account with us. Now they can get in and watch any auction online to do that. Now, the best example I can give you of how it works was I was through pandemic. I was doing an auction in my lounge room for Molenar McNeese down in Wollongong. I had the agent turn up to my house. We sold 150,000 above reserve. He had 6 registered bidders, and he had 23 watches. Now, he didn't know he had 23 watches. He had 23 people that have seen the signboard, driven past it, obviously can't go through it because it was pandemic at the time, but have investigated this property. Now, by investigating that property means that they're heading into real estate mode. Back to your point, Tom, they're that vendor that checks out the auction, see what's happened. They're a nosy neighbour. They're not quite in the space, but they're curious about what's going on in the market. So then what happened? We called the auction, knocked it down. He's about to walk out the door. I said, hang on, mate, give you this. I printed it off. I know we're paperless, but I printed it off for him. I gave him the list of these 23 onlookers. He said, what's that? I said, these are the people logged on to watch the auction, how it went. Now, you can't get that data anywhere. Even on site, you cannot get that data. You've got a crowd of 100 people. The only people you know about is 6 registered, right? So I gave it to him. I said, go and call these people, because they showed enough interest to actually log in and register and watch the auction, blah, blah. He rang me back to say, get an appraisal out of it. So you don't get that data anywhere else. And as I said, go back to the on-site scenario. I turned around to you, Tom, how was your auction? Yeah, 100 people there, 6 registered. How was it? Oh, it's a cracking auction. Okay, yeah, good. So how did you communicate that with anyone else? Yeah. Oh, well, I've got the 6 registered parties. Whereas this QR code on the way in, the way that we set our system up is you've got a QR code to stay of interest to this property. We'll inform you every step of the way on that property with what's happening. If we accept an offer, if we delay the auction, if we do anything, you'll be informed through the QR code. And we're finding that we're building our database through that, and you've got names, numbers. So when you sit down and have conversations with your vendor about what the market's doing, I've got 6 registered bidders, I've got 23 people watching it, maybe pricing's an issue.
Listen, I love that, Ben. I've got to tell you, I mean, we know the death of a real estate agent is the death of a pipeline, and we've just found out another pipeline source. These are people that sometimes are 20 meters away from the front of the house at an auction, at an on-site. You often don't get their details, because a lot of the times they don't even walk in, right? And now what we're saying is we've got the ability to be following people up a week later. Hey, it's Ben here from the real estate. I noticed you were watching 27 Smith Street. Can I ask you, how did you feel about the result? And by the way, are you researching buying or selling at this time?
Correct. Yeah.
Right? Just absolutely love the lead generation tool that is coming. So what do you get? You get mobile numbers? You get
mobile number and email address. Now, again, people can put a dummy in. Nothing stops that in the real world. You can do that anyway. I'll turn up to your open. Can I get your name and number, Tom? You can give me a furphy. That's okay. But the reality is they were never in the market anyway. So it's just the way that you deliver it. Back to scripts and dialogues. Hey, Tom, it's nice to see you at my open inspection today. Obviously, you're heading into real estate market. Are you buying, selling, all those sorts of things? And just around, so look, is it okay if I send you updates of what's happening in and around your market? Are you okay with that? Just ask permission to do it. Now, the best example I can give you, Tom, digressing slightly, as part of our system, that QR code is the most unbelievable tools in my 26 years in real estate, and how you use that now. Because we don't just do auctions now, Tom. We're not just auctions, we're timed auctions, we're timed sales, but we have an offer platform. Now, the biggest concern that real estate agents have in the marketplace is we're second or third on the bottom. Now, why is that? Because it's through transparency. It's not through our own fault. 90% of agents are good-hearted, great people, passionate about the industry. They just get let down in process. So what I mean by let down in process is that I could handle an offer differently to how you handle an offer. So by giving it an offer platform where, yeah, look, Tom, you'd like to make an offer on this property, that's fantastic. Look, I'm going to send you this QR code or this link. If I could get you to just submit your offer through there so it all sits in one place, you've got a system and a process of managing that offer, whether it take it through to contract, digitally press 2 buttons, it's on a contract, whether it be deferring it. Look, it's not quite enough at this stage, but it automates all the messaging out to all the buyers, all the people making the offer, and it fills in that link of you didn't come back to me, you didn't communicate it to me, whereas now it fixes all that. But the best example I can give you how the QR code works, I've got a client out in the Hills District. They list a property. We all do deal cards because it's something we feel we have to do. It's Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I'm going to letterbox drop the neighbourhood outside of my database. However, what they're doing is they're getting the deal envelope, photo of the front of the property that they've listed for sale, turn it over. If they choose to put their logo on the back, that's okay. If not, doesn't matter. Nothing else but the QR code. Right. So if I'm intrigued as a buyer, I'll pick that QR code up, scan it. I've got to put my name, my phone number, my email address in. It gives you permission to call them back. And it gives them the details about the property, follow, register to bid, make an offer, those sorts of things. Now, all of a sudden, I've got data that I never had. If I've done a letterbox drop prior to that with the auctions on the 5th of March and X, Y, Z, how do I know it didn't end up in the bin? Did the letterbox dropper mince it up and take it straight to the tip? Wow. There's no engagement, whereas this is our way of sort of engaging. And that's just a simple example of how it's used.
So in the old world, that was then, which is no idea who's interacting with you. In the new world, you know who's interacting with you, you know their name, you know their email. And I just think at the moment, guys and girls that are watching, man, there's a saying, if you don't like change, you're going to hate extinction. Yeah. Mate, I got to tell you right now, think about it. Your competitors, like this instance here, this office in the Hills area, your competitors are out there and they're building a stockpile of names and emails and mobiles. They are becoming people's agent before you need an agent. They're creating an ecosystem. They're closing off. Yeah, go on, Ben.
Yeah, top pond fishing. They know it before everyone else. Why do people get the listing before everyone else? Because they've been working them over 12, 18 months. They're building that relationship, that rapport. And we've also got systems built in through the Realtair platform that we know that when people have engaged with it, we know how long they've spent on it. We know how many times they've opened it. We know what device they've opened it from. So I know that that's very big brother, but geez, I'd rather spend my time and effort doing that than feeling like I have to because I sat down with Mr. and Mrs. Vendor and I'm spending their vendor marketing saying I've got to do 3,000 letterbox drops. I've got to door knock this and do all this. This is just smarter prospecting. As I said, Tom, we're the only industry in the world that we know where our customer lives. So if we can't actually go and knock on that door and know who that customer is, that's our job, isn't it? And our job is to work out who that person is and nurture a relationship with them over a period of time so that when they do go into real estate mode, you're on the top of the list.
Now, it sounds perfect. Now, I understand one of the reasons why this year versus last year, a bit of a drop in digital auctions is because, hey, the world's back to normal. Beautiful. This is what I prefer. This is what I was used to. Man, I'm a face-to-face person. Is that the main reason that you think is stopping agents from hybrid auctions? I'm trying to work out, like, it seems to be all upside and very little downside, but is there downside that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, look, it's a fair call. I just think that we're creatures of habit, Tom. Like, we honestly go back to the comfort of it. And this was a quick fix for a solution that happened, a quick solution for a situation that happened over COVID. Now, I've got to say, and you talk about the bell curve, of who's, there's the early adopters, there's the people, and then there's the people at the tail end that have to get on because everyone else has got on. Now, whilst people have gone back to their manual filling it out, and look, don't get me started on phone bidding because there's a massive risk in that. But we've also got people that have taken it the next step. So they've not only grabbed our systems and our processes, but they've taken it to the next level, like those deal cards with QR codes on it, like calling their buyers before they send out price updates and doing videos through our system and things like that. So yes, the comfort, creature habits gone back to the old ways, but they will become extinct, as you say, Tom. You've either got to get on this or you are going to become extinct. And I'm not saying that, that's not a sales pitch. I don't need to sell this stuff. I was reluctant to use it as an auctioneer when I first started using it, thinking, oh, there's a pain in the ass, got to set the camera up and blah, blah, blah. But the amount of times it saved me just in compliance alone, it's a no-brainer. I've got a video, people record it. I've got a record of it forever. I've made it easier for the client to register. My job's done. So yeah, what's the catch?
So Ben, when you said, give me an idea, what time do you allow for setting up a camera on a tripod? Well, how long does it take?
30 seconds, if that. The biggest issue that I have, Tom, is remembering to press commence auction. That's the hardest part. Because, you rock up in me, I'm on the 45 in most auctions, and a lot of the times I'm right on time. So I'll rock up. Now, don't forget that this is the job of your auctioneer to do this. So it's not the agent's responsibility. The agent's responsibility is to get buyers to the property, get them registered. The rest the auctioneer takes care of when it comes to bidding. In my case, I have a penciler that does it for me. So I'll go in for my vendor meeting as I'm pulling up to set the game plan for the day, for the auction, and my penciler in this case will whack up a $25 Kmart tripod with my phone on it, start it, go to iPad, press commence, and I'm away. It's that easy.
So are you using a phone or an iPad?
A phone. I use a phone for, and only the auctioneers have the app for the streaming. I use the phone for the streaming, and I use an iPad for the penciling. Now, the penciling is phenomenal because, traditionally we used to write it down and you've got to get the bids right, and bidder number 6 at 1,336,000, bidder number. And if it's going fast, whereas this is touch button, keypad in front of you, quick buttons as in they've increased 50,000, 10,000, 1,000, touch button, bidder, touch button, bidder. And it's honestly touchscreen, boom, 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 it's done. And the great part about all that, Tom, is when I go going once, twice, third, final call, bang, sold it, right? The successful bidder is aligned. They've come through our system as registered. We've captured all their compliant details, their license, their buying authority, as in if they're buying it in the company, all those sorts of things. I've sold the property. I broadcast a message to all of the followers so they understood what happened, all of the underbidders, and of course the auction, the person that was successful at auction. Press a button, populates the contract. All I have to do is make sure that it transpired across okay into the auction, into the contract, ready to go, signature, sign on glass, done. And before I've even left the auction, Tom, the vendor, the purchaser, the vendor solicitor, the purchaser solicitor have all received a copy of the signed contract with the sales advice, and I collect the deposit within 2 buttons, all within 5 minutes of the auction. Done. No more checks back to the office, no more receipting, no more compliance issues. If people are using Macquarie Pay, nothing wrong with it if the person is there with you. But if your buyer is absentee, they're one of the hybrid buyers, for an example, they bought it down the line there, we send a 2-factor authentication. We've collected their deposit. It's in your trust account 1 to 2 days.
Gold. Even just listening to you there, I'm just recalling at least 3 people have told me they're using your platform and encouraging people they've got in their pipeline that are about to come onto the market. They'll send them instructions to watch an auction.
Yep, correct.
Online. And a lot of the times that's the tipping point that moves the needle. You got to, of course, obviously, if the property sells and sells at a great price, it's moving the needle a lot better than if it's a dud, right? We know that, right? But you wouldn't send them a dud, would you?
No, not at all. No. And that's not the point. But then other parts to this too, Tom, it also opens up other markets at the moment. So if you go to Garth Mikowski, Harcourts at Campbelltown, one of the Harcourts #1 offices in Australia, like a phenomenal business, huge amount of transactions. They don't necessarily use ours for like they do auctions as well. They use our platform, but they're using the other part to it, which we haven't really touched on today. Is another part to it is the timed auction and the time sale. It's the eBay for real estate, if you like. Now, just to paint a picture, very blue collar area for him. Very first home buyer. They're a little bit put off by auctions, but what they've done is they've enabled the timed auction or time sale. Now, the timed auction is overseen by a auctioneer. The time sale is exactly the same platform, but not overseen. So one's with no cooling off period. One is generally with a 5 or 10 day cooling off period. Now, how it works is no different to your auction. It's just a slower burn if you think about it this way. You set your auction date on Friday at 3 p.m. You get all your registered parties exactly the same way we do it. We capture their license, their details, solicitors, everything like that. They're registered, they're able to participate in the auction. Then what happens is, as the agent or the auctioneer, as I said, overseen by the auctioneer, you set the reserve, right? You set it with the vendor like you normally would. You set the end sale price, you set the starting price, and you set the increments in between as to what you're allowing the bidding to start. Say, for an example, the reserve's 1.3, you're prepared to kick it away at $1 million. If it's $1 million and it's that far away from reserve, you're probably going to have higher increments, $20,000, $50,000. But as it gets closer to the number that the vendor is chasing, you can drop it right down to $500. Now, the beauty of this is when it gets down to the last 5 minutes, if anyone bids in the last 5 minutes, that clock starts again. So it's got this ability to give people time, effort, time to console with loved ones, their trusted advisors as to where they go. Now, you've had Lee Woodward on this. We had Lee's mother-in-law's house on this, and it went for a couple of $100,000 above reserve, went 3 hours after the auction in $500 increments and hundreds of thousands of dollars in bidding over the time. So it's another method, it's another sale. But again, back to the point about at Realtair, we're trying to provide enough platform for people to transact real estate in the most comfortable fashion that suits them. None of this, it's got to be hard and fast, it's got to be that way, we're not going to do it. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, you won an auction, but you don't like the fanfare, that's cool. Let's take it down the path of a timed auction. Or you don't want to make it, I'll lose buyers if it had no cooling off period. Okay, let's take it down the path of a time sale where there's a little bit more room for movement at the end. They can go for a cooling off period.
Okay, so there's traditional auction, which I call it, let's say, hybrid auction.
Yep.
There's time sale, which is for people that are totally averse to auction and want cooling off periods.
Yep.
There's timed auction, which allows those marketplaces that haven't been auction lovers, but still want the benefits of auction.
Yep.
What do you see the main differences, Ben, between the traditional auction method and the time auction method?
Yeah, look, I think part of it is in certain, and look, I'm an auctioneer, Tom, and I'm one of these, no one can tell me, oh, it's not an auction property. That's bullshit, because it's all about competition, right? But I also do feel that there's sentiment in areas that it takes a while to build to an on-site auction culture that, it's got to be a special property. But I think that this is our way of actually easing people into the process. A lot of them don't like the pressure. They don't like, vendors and purchasers alike, don't like that 15 minutes of it's all going to happen, right? They like this slower opportunity to ease themselves into it. So I think that's the distinct difference between the two, Tom. And then even one further back, as I said, go back to Garth Mikowski down there. He does the majority. If you get on our site now, he dominates the time sales space because he just feels that it distances the angry relationship of the purchaser that missed out or the underbidders. Why didn't you submit my offer? I offered the same. That conversation is no longer there. So it's a lot more transparent for he and his clients, and he has a better relationship with those clients. Look, you want to buy it? Get online there. You can see there's some interest in it. Or you don't believe me that there's someone else in there. Look, you can get online there. There's an offer. It's exposed. You can see it. If you want to beat it, go for it. And it takes that argy-bargy out of how come that person got it over me? I don't like it. I'll never deal with your office again. Not his problem anymore. The system has taken that heartache away from
Ben, timed auction, versus normal auction, both have no cooling off period.
Correct. Overseen by an auctioneer. So for an example, there's timed auctions running at the moment. I currently have one running at the moment, and it's a 3-week auction. If you look at that way, you put a bid in first day, it can be shopped around technically for 3 weeks until the auction finishes. Generally, we'll find that it heats up in activity like everything closer to the thing, but it is overseen by myself. I'm not physical. I don't talk to anyone as in call an auction at 5 out of 5, you know, that sort of stuff. I actually sit there and I type messages to people saying, look, just letting you know that these are the terms and conditions. The worst thing you do is drive past the property and say, we could have owned that house. I'm just trying to do that. But what it does for the agent, it gives them time to ring the underbidder and say, hey, you've been outbid. You told me that you wanted this house. You've been looking for 6 months. This is your house. Go again. Why don't you go another bid? You got time to work on them.
Got it. Okay. Well, listen, we've covered and you've been quite outstanding in explaining everything, and it's very timely because at the moment I notice, Ben, there's a lot of agents that have got listings that are just floundering. They list them. There's this disconnect between the list price and what the market's saying because of our changing times. Then real estate agents have got this guilt, so they lack their frequency and touch points. Before you know it, 4, 6, 8 weeks later on, it's sort of just floundering there. I just think this set sail, this set time that you've got is putting pressure, even in marketplaces that traditionally have been, hey, no, Tommy, this is a private treaty marketplace. This is the time you've got to start bringing deadlines to transactions, or otherwise I'm worried, Ben, some of these offices are going to become like antique stores. They're collecting listings and they're not going to sell. We only get paid for something that transacts.
Yeah.
So
totally agree, mate. And the other part too is time is of the essence. Just while the best example I can give of it going up was exactly the same answer of it going down. Called an auction out in the Hills District, 3 auctions in the same street over the course of a 6-week period. First auction reserve was 1.2, sold it for 1.4. The very next week, the house 3 doors away, the reserve was 1.4, obviously, because the one sold cookie cutter homes, right? The one sold for reserve 1.4, sold for 1.7, right? So this is a week apart. 3 weeks later, 5 doors up the road, reserve 1.7, sold it for 1.9. So it's gone up $700,000 in the space of a 5-6 week period, right? The same thing's happening in the other way. So anyone online here, I totally respect your decision. Maybe we don't understand it well enough, but if you're not auctioning, you're actually missing the market. Why we auction? No ceiling, right? You don't know. In that pandemic, mate, it was going crazy on that example I've just given you at the moment. But I've got to go on the other way. If you put a price on it and you're out by 50 grand, by the time you realize you're out by 50 grand, you're out by 150 grand because you've missed the mark. I've watched it lose $100,000 a week at the moment in certain areas. You can't afford to put a price on it. Spray and pray, put it out there, see how you go. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Look, guys and girls, in summary, there's no recommended retail price in real estate. The market sets the market, right? It's not a Samsung TV. It's not an Apple iPhone 13. It doesn't have a recommended retail price. What Ben is basically saying is every week we're getting prices wrong. Agents are getting prices wrong. Auctioneers are getting prices wrong. We think that they're going to go for something and then they go for something else, right? So listen, outstanding work. Now, for those of you that are not a Realtair client, the best way to sort of get on the bus is realtair.com.au. Is that when you're talking to clients that sort of think, man, yeah, let me suss this out?
Yeah.
Susan, I think, has actually just put it in the chat box. Realtair.com/Tom Panos. That's one that goes to mine that's been set up. So yeah, just go there. Susan, put that on Facebook as well in the comments because only chat box people. So if you can type that in Facebook in the comments. Ben, I want to thank you so much.
Thanks, mate. Tommy, I think just it's really relevant. This resonated with me when I've listened to your coaching and sat in on your training sessions back in my time at LJ Hooker and the like. Your analogy around the kid and the HSC booklet with all the answers in it, mate, we need to spread that love a little bit more because that's exactly the market at the moment. So that's Forget putting a retail price on it. You'll pay anything for the right property. And rightly back so the other way, we need to work out where the bottom is fastest so we can save our clients some money.
Well said. Ben, do you sleep well in hotel rooms?
Second night, yes. First night, no. I'm no good with the aircon. I get it too hot, too cold.
Mate, it's funny you say that. That's, mate, aircon. Mate, the first thing I walk into a hotel room, I go straight to the aircon. What have they got here? How's it all work? What's this button? Is this permanently done? Is there a unit here or is this all ducted? Have I got any control over this? And then what actually happens is I'm terrible when it overheats at night. I don't sleep well when it's hot, right? So you and the temperature changes in the night with weather. I'm throwing doonas around. I'm a bit like that with
I'll
hotel.
probably sleep well tonight though, mate. I got the man flu, you know. I think it's pretty hard, that man flu, for those of you that have had it. But yeah, I'll drug myself up on some Codral tonight and we should be right. Yeah.
Make sure you don't mix the daytime and nighttime formula when you put them in your mouth. All righty. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Good to see you, mate.
See you. Signing off, everyone. Realtair.com/Tom Panos. Check it out. And don't forget, we haven't even touched on today the digital pre-list, the digital updates that people are sending off that are nurturing their database. We haven't touched on those. There is a buffet of value with Realtair. Signing off.